I remember one time I thought to myself, this is literally sounds what it would sound like if self-harm had a soundtrack. Antichrist Superstar. I think I have an unhealthy relationship with this album. And what do I mean by that? This album, it's got its whole arc of transformation and just saying fuck religion, fuck the government, fuck everything. I don't normally say that. I've never felt that way about an album before where I have a love and hate relationship with it. It's like such a good album, but I feel like if I listen to it too much, if I stay too much on this soundtrack, if I let this soundtrack like just play as I'm going along, I'm cooked. Like I'm cooked in the sense of my mood can be hopeless, or it gets on some of those deep tracks. You know what I mean? Anybody that listens to this album and who's into Marilyn Manson's music will relate to that statement. It can also put you in an uplifting mood with those same exact songs as well. Yeah, like I said, there's never been such an album where I feel like I have to remind myself that this is just music. And sometimes I have to just change the soundtrack. And not because I don't like the music, it's just because sometimes you gotta just remember that you can't, your thoughts create your reality. And if you really, really believe the stuff that Manson's preaching on this record, it can consume you. So, starting off the first track, Irresponsible Hate Anthem, I feel like it's a great bridge from The Portrait of an American Family into Antichrist Superstar, because like I mentioned in my last video, Portrait of an American Family really focuses on essentially what childhood could be like or was like for, somebody growing up in that scene of an American family, as they say. Now, Irresponsible Hate Anthem is essentially your chaos, nihilistic, like, fuck it, this is who we are now. We are gonna be the Antichrist Superstar, and this is a start. This is like your opening thesis to the album, which I think is perfect. Probably one of the few tracks that really does feel like it's old school produced, like the production from Portrait of an American Family, bridges, like I said, into this album, because this album's production value is just through the roof compared to the other one. A lot of these songs, they can get you going, but they can also like bring you down, like I said. And there's a lot of these songs like Irresponsible Hate Anthem, The Beautiful People, even Dried Up, Tied and Dead to the World, which that title alone, that sounds very depressing. But the song itself is so powerful. I've listened to that song at the gym so many times, especially live versions of that song, Tied Up and Dead to the World. It's great. And notice I kind of skipped over The Beautiful People. There's really not much to be said about that song. It's great. The whole time that I've been listening to Manson, the song that I've connected to deepest is Tourniquet. Tourniquet was actually the first song of this album that I played, or that I think I actually really, really connected to when I first listened to it. I'm listening to this song and I'm like, yo, this song goes, why the hell does it go so much? And I didn't really process why it was hitting so much because I had things to do that day. So as I hit the gym, I probably replayed that song at the gym for like the last 20, 30 minutes. Then I changed to a different track. Then I went back to it. But at that point, it planted a seed. That track, Tourniquet, planted a seed. And I kept going back to that track. It's the type of song that I can listen to when I'm really sad or when I'm at the gym. But here's the kick. I didn't realize why I liked it so much and why it can hit in different ways and why it spoke to me so much. Because I think it's more than just, some people look at this song and some people can say is it because of relationship? At first I thought it was like that, because at the time, I'm not gonna lie to you, I've struggled with drug use in my life. And at that time, like I said, I was not necessarily back full blown on drugs, but I was like struggling with it. And I thought like, damn, maybe the drugs are my tourniquet, because I'm just trying to numb out so I don't have to feel shit. Months of just being in that state. I was not really on drugs the whole time, thank God. But this song made me really, really think and face myself. And the lyrics, when Manson says, I'm not proud of me, I never believed in myself, or I've never believed in me. that shit hits because I believe I always struggled with really believing in myself. And the fact that it talks about a relationship with something, I think it can, because I look back at my life and looked at every single relationship I've been in. And it's really just because I was trying to find, somebody to enjoy life with, because I don't think I was enjoying life. A little bit of my backstory: I moved to the United States when I was a kid, and when I'm being dropped in this pool of kids in elementary school, and I feel like I gotta fit in with everybody. I quickly started to realize, okay, how do you get social currency? You just gesture max, or do whatever, try to get attention, get cool points. I got my first girlfriend, if you call it a girlfriend, in 5th grade, and I only started dating her. She liked me, and how girls do their little, hey, what do you think of so and so? Then I'll be like, oh yeah, she's cute, because even back then I knew, or she likes me, so let's, so I know, having a fifth girlfriend back then in 5th grade is damn, I'd be the coolest kid in school. But I didn't really want that relationship, because soon after we became boyfriend and girlfriend, I was like, fuck, now I have to do boyfriend stuff, and I'm a 5th grader. I don't have money. I don't have money to go to the movies. It ties back to this song, because I never, in every single relationship I had been in since then, I was really just trying to find something, whether it was a relationship, whether it was drugs, because as I got older, I did get into drugs. I mean, you know how they say weed is a gateway drug. I tried different drugs, but I think this song and finding Manson right now essentially made me to really look in the mirror of who I was and who I was throughout my life, who I'm becoming, what I'm trying to do, and why I did the things that I did. I would get really sad just thinking back at my life, until I figured all that out, oh shit, I'm just trying to cope, or trying to, I don't know if cope is the right word, but I'm trying to find fulfillment in other people, or trying to find someone else to complete me, just so I can feel validated for having a girl or whatever, or having women around me. When in reality, I haven't, it's I just haven't built my own life. So this album definitely helped me see that. And specifically that song just hit so hard, because it made me realize what's really my tourniquet, And then as I looked deeper into it, in the mood that this song would put me in, I realized, okay, it's really, I just gotta forgive myself for everything. They say that, sometimes you just gotta forgive yourself for whatever misses you had in your life, for messing up that perfect relationship you had, messing up that job opportunity, whatever. And this song and this album essentially helped me realize that I just gotta forgive myself for my past, or whatever. I don't think I would have realized that, at least now, had I not discovered Marilyn Manson at that point. I was glued to this song, even though it made me feel like crap sometimes, because when I hear I never believed in myself, or I never really believed in me, that can really mess with your head. Even if I've been confident, I've never had a problem getting a girl. I've built myself up to get, people to like me, which is a later theme on this album of finally becoming the Antichrist Superstar. This past week, I saw this, there was this bootleg live version. I'll put the link in the description, and I'll probably show you a little snippet right here. Now, in this 1999 version, you gotta think, this is when Mechanical Animals dropped. They were essentially on the top, at the top of the world right here. This is as big as Marilyn Manson got at the time. He was on MTV, on the MTV show, awards show or whatever. Dope Show was the biggest hit, whatever. He was making headlines. This is before Columbine. This is before, he became the biggest villain ever. He was already a villain before, but you can hear in this version of Tourniquet, he doesn't say the last verse, the part where he doesn't believe in himself. And I thought to myself, why does this part sound so good? He obviously leaves the last part out, which is the part that I was drawn to the most. Don't get me wrong, I love the whole song, but when he leaves that last verse out, or that outro, where he doesn't say, "I never really believed in me," I thought like, okay, well, because it wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense to say it when he's at the top of his fame and his career. He didn't have to say that. The song itself, they only played Tourniquet 2 times during that whole tour in 1999. It makes sense. Like, yeah, like you don't need to play a song like Tourniquet when that whole album, it's another perfect album, honestly. He didn't need to play a song from Antichrist Superstar that was one on the more kind of sad. I wouldn't necessarily call Tourniquet a super sad song. I think it's still up to interpretation on how you see the song, but you don't need to play that song during that tour, and they only played it twice, and it's a different vibe. One of the things that I got from listening to that 1999 version is that it sounds inspiring. It sounds like that last like minute and a half or whatever after he stopped singing. It sounds like you're persevering through the struggle. You're making it through. I fucking love that version. That's probably the version I actually play at the gym the most. And I found this version of 2017 that he played in Budapest. I believe that's how you say the city. I think it's Hungary. As I'm listening to this Tourniquet version from 2017, this is after he dropped Heaven Upside Down. His dad had passed away earlier, actually 2 weeks before, 2 weeks to the date of this video. Not exactly 2 weeks to the date, but it's basically 2 weeks before his father had passed away, and he was back on drugs. Thankfully, he's clean now, but you can tell the way he's performing this song, and even though he messes up the lyrics at the start and just throughout the song, he does mess up the lyrics. You can see the different take and the exhaustion as he's singing this song. And a lot of fans would say, "Oh, he messed this version up. He's definitely not himself. He's fucked up. He's on drugs. He's down bad. He needs to retire." So there's some comments on this. There's one dude that said he needs to retire. But then there's another comment that says when you're an artist, you can perform the song as you want. And when I heard this version, obviously Manson doesn't have the voice he once did, but still, when you listen to it and you interpret where he was in his life at the time, you can really feel the pain in this live version. So you can only imagine what he was going through when he performed this version. This is one of the sadder songs, at least for me, as I interpret it. Manson himself, I've seen him in interviews say that he doesn't actually listen to his own music very often. But I can only imagine what, that the vibe of that song and having to perform it just, days after his father passed away must feel. And I noticed how he performed it in 1999, whereas in 2017, he's really going through shit. Obviously, he probably didn't talk much about it, but you can imagine what he's going through. And that's what I realized, that like you really have to change the station sometimes. Sometimes I don't listen to that Tourniquet. Seeing those two versions really helped me understand why the song can put me in different moods. And it can also, and it's up to the interpretation on where you are in your life. And I think, watching those two versions definitely made me realize that again. Because I knew that. I knew that, you shouldn't be listening to depressed crap all the time. But I got really into Marilyn Manson that I was essentially living in that space for a while. I got so into the whole song and album, and I forgot I really forgot to really be in silence and listen to my own thoughts and how I really felt about myself. The filmography, the filmography. The filmography. I don't know if I can say that. Try saying that 3 times fast. I can't do it. I like that song. This is the one that, Little Rock Star. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie though. One of the things about this album is that there's parts where I do feel like it is a demon talking to me. I'm not gonna lie to you. And I know it's performing, but I cannot lie to you and tell you that there hasn't been times where I felt like, fuck, I don't think God would want me to listen to this. Or not necessarily that, but like, fuck, this is like the devil right here. Like, you got your angel, your devil. And this is something that I struggled with when I first heard this album. Not even Marilyn Manson as a whole, this album itself. Because even Marilyn Manson himself has said that it's just a concept. I saw an interview a couple of days ago where he talked about he doesn't need to say anything else about religion. He already said everything he needs to say. That's, he left it at that, or like everything is just a concept and it's art or whatever. You gotta remember to just take it as it is. It's art. But there were times in the way that he screams and sings, talks, whatever you want to use in this album, where it felt like it was a demon talking to me. And this is where like kind of gets to this whole point of where am I? I'm trying to follow God. I really am, honestly. But at the same time, I fucking love this album. And really love Marilyn Manson's music. I find it freaking crazy that the same year that I'm trying to turn back to God and, fix my life up, or, just because, how they say, I'm not trying to make this a Christian video, but I found it ironic. And I had to really ask myself, like, why is it bad that I'm listening to this? Like, why is it that the year that I'm trying to get into God, trying to follow God, trying to read the Bible, I discover Marilyn Manson? You can't make this stuff up. Even when I read the title, I was like, okay, his best played album, because, like I said, on Apple Music, it shows you the best albums. And this is his best album, according to Apple Music. Although, again, I'm not going to tell you what my favorite Manson album is, but this is up there. But yeah, like, I found myself, like, wondering, what, like, am I a fake Christian for listening to the Antichrist Superstar? I was having these questions, but then, that. Because, yeah, like I said, yeah, the way some of these songs go and Manson's voice sounds pretty scary. Moving on, Warm Boy, I actually really love this track. Again, a lot of this track, it plays around with the, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to go into the whole music part, like the whole composing and this and that, because I'm not a music expert. I've never been in a studio. I've never made music. I play guitar. I play guitar a little bit. Hell, I've played the hell out of some of these songs. Manson's music actually isn't that hard to learn on guitar for the most part. Yeah, Worm Boy, then I was a worm, blah, 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 and I didn't even know it, then I got my wings. Great song. That song is low-key a comeback anthem if you think about it, because you get your wings. Antichrist Superstar. Top 5 songs on the album for sure. I don't know, like, I'll try to get to the end and tell you my top 5. I haven't actually thought about this. But Antichrist Superstar, the song, the title track itself is so hype. you know, and it sucks because Manson is having like a tour this year, or like a show this year in LA where he does like the 30th anniversary of this album, and I really wish I could have gone, but I do not have money just to go to LA for one day, or, you know, whatever. But who knows? Maybe in October things will be looking differently. We'll see. We'll see. I guess I gotta get a goth baddie too to go to the Manson concert too, because, you know. But anyways, this song is freaking awesome. And what's funny is this album, like I said, it pulls me down, but it pulls me all the way back up, especially when I hear that. You bring me up like a wish in hell. You know, fuck, love that song. Seriously, it's so good. And the live versions of it too. The live versions go crazy. Like from that album, that live album, the only live album they have, where he goes like, "You can't kill me, motherfucker," as the guitar's riff is hitting. That shit sounds so awesome. Love that song. So that song would like literally like bring me back after I've had like one of the saddest days ever, you know, or like a bad day or whatever the fuck. Minute of Decay, I fucking love this song. Because it literally sounds like that. It literally sounds like you're just there dying, or on your 7-day binge, you know, Pale Emperor vibes, but not, you know, but not in the nice bluesy way of Pale Emperor, like just sad, like, fuck, what am I doing with my life? Minute of Decay type shit. So the reflecting God and Man That You Fear. This is how I want to essentially conclude how I interpret the album at the end. Now, the way I interpret the album now is a lot different. Like, obviously now I'm looking at Tourniquet, I'm looking at it more as a reflection of what I did to, you know, my coping strategies throughout my life, and what led me to this point, why I made the decisions, why I got into the relationships that I did, why I used drugs, or, you know, have used drugs in the past to, you know, cope for whatever. The whole theme of becoming the Antichrist Superstar in the album, I looked at it like earlier in my life, in my, you know, early 20s, mid 20s, I had essentially gotten, you know, betrayed by friends, or a girl left me, whatever, getting played at work when I was first working a job for the first few years or whatever. So I wanted to essentially, you know, learn the social rules of the jungle. So I started to really work in my reading books and just becoming more, what do they say? Learning power moves. Like, I started reading all the psychology books, all the power dynamics books. You can even see in my channel, I have some old, I did a couple videos on the Robert Greene books. I read all his books. I read some of his books. I actually read them over 10 times. So I was basically reading all of these books a bunch of times because I never wanted to get played again, either in any relationship or by my peers. So I essentially became the villain in my own story. But I, you know, in that sense, and that's a whole topic for a whole nother video. When, you know, becoming the man that you fear, becoming the Antichrist Superstar, the villain, is something that I definitely would have gravitated towards more, and probably how I would have interpreted this album maybe 5-10 years ago. But now I'm looking at it as more reflective, more like, how did all the choices that I made that stem from Tourniquet, which I feel like is the emotional core of the album, at least for me, as of now, and how did all those decisions lead me here? That can be different for someone else. Someone may interpret a different focal point in the album. But for me, it's definitely Tourniquet and what my Tourniquet was. That's really my big point in this whole video, is to really figure out your Tourniquet, your coping patterns. Because I think a lot of people, you know, I think everybody has coping patterns. Nobody's perfect. Finally, to just make my point, you know what's funny about this album? This little booklet, I think you would only know this if you're a real Manson fan or you actually bought the album. Funny enough, I feel like right there, that's a passage from the book of Revelations. So there's some Bible on there. So it really can't be all that bad, right? These are closer than you might actually think. But my bigger point is you have to change the soundtrack sometimes. If you're getting too deep in this music, and this was like the biggest trigger for me, this album, because you can get caught listening to a lot of these lyrics and just being on that dried up, tied and dead to the world mindset, or that nihilist mindset of fuck everything, nothing matters. And that's not a healthy mindset to have, either. But this album was as close as I ever got to that mindset of just screw it all, like fuck it, fuck it, everybody's gone, And I'm not gonna say the N word like Manson, but it wasn't born with enough middle fingers. I don't think all of us were, but we can't be nihilistic either. I don't think that's the answer either. And one more funny thing, I was talking to my sister the other day on FaceTime. She was calling me, and this was during when I was having like that, like just binging this album. Like I was just listening to it a lot. And when she called me, I go to the back for whatever reason, get a drink, whatever. And as I'm coming back, I'm singing Tourniquet to myself. So I'm like, yeah, never ever believed. And my sister's like, stop singing that. It's like you're putting a spell on me. And I was like, bro, that's literally a Marilyn Manson song. Like from this album. I don't think I'll do a review on this album, but if you guys want me to, I will. But there's a song called I Put a Spell on You. It's a cover from an old, I think it's an old blues artist from like the 50s or 60s. But he did do a song for that song, I Put a Spell on You. And when she said that, it also resonated because like, oh my God, you're right. Like, is this music essentially putting a spell on me by making me, feel like it's not? Even Manson himself talked about it in an interview, how some albums do have those, I think they're called binaural beats or frequencies. I don't know what the hell it's called, where the music can get you higher, change your brain chemistry.
But some of those are true. Some of those frequencies do have an effect on your brain. They make you feel happy or sad, and
it makes sense. Definitely puts a spell on you if you play it too much and forget, and really, 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 really change the setting to the lyrics, I guess, or change your mindset in that way. But then again, sometimes that might actually work. This album allowed me to look at myself in the mirror and really look at what my tourniquet was and what I was really doing with my life in that sense. What was I coping with, or what were my coping strategies other than drugs, validation from women, or the social group, whatever, sex. But if you listen to it too much and you're playing it all the time and you're really internalizing and just saying to yourself the lyrics, you might be putting a spell on yourself. But yeah, that's it. If this video was helpful, share it with your friends, or share it with your Marilyn Manson binge friend who hasn't stopped listening to Manson, or discovered him a couple months ago and hasn't stopped. Peace.